November 18th, 2019, 3:47 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Captain Marcus Thornfield's final transmission crackles through maritime radio frequency, 2,182 kHz. Mayday, Nayday. This is sailing vessel Aurora's Dream, position 3215. 14,530 feet W, taking on water rapidly, GPS systems failing, requesting immediate assistance. 47 hours later, the U.S. Coast Guard discovers something that defies every protocol in maritime rescue operations. This is what really happened. Marcus Thornfield wasn't just another weekend sailor attempting the impossible. At 62 years old, he'd logged over 180,000 nautical miles across for decades of professional maritime service, including 15 years as a cargo ship captain with Maersk Line and certification as a master mariner from the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency. His wife Eleanor had watched him plan this solo circumnavigation for 3 years, his retirement dream to break the over 60 solo sailing world record, currently held at 152 days. The Aurora's Dream, his custom-built 48-foot oyster yacht, has carried $340,000 worth of navigation equipment, including dual EPIRB beacons, satellite communication systems, and military-grade life rafts. When Thornfield's distress call reached Coast Guard Station Alameda at 3:47 a.m., Rescue Coordination Center launched Operation Pacific Search, mobilizing to C-130 Hercules aircraft, the cutter USCGC Steadfast, and coordinating with the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force. But the technical anomaly discovered 72 hours into the search would force maritime investigators to question everything they thought they knew about modern sailing safety protocols. The Aurora's Dream S automatic identification system had been transmitting normally until November 17th at 11:23 p.m., exactly 4 hours and 24 minutes before Thornfield's Mayday call. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen, leading the Coast Guard investigation, noticed something that violated standard maritime emergency procedures. The vessel's eyes beacon showed a consistent southwesterly course at 6.2 knots until transmission ceased, as Chen explained in her official report. But the GPS coordinates in Captain Thornfield's distress call placed him 47 nautical miles northeast of his last known position. In deteriorating weather conditions, that's physically impossible. The search area expanded to 15,000 square nautical miles. On November 21st, a Japanese fishing vessel spotted debris 230 miles from Thornfield's reported position fragments of Aurora's Dream's distinctive blue fiberglass hull and a life vest bearing the yacht's registration numbers. But forensic analysis of the debris revealed something that changed everything. Dr. James Harrison, a maritime forensics expert with 30 years of experience investigating vessel casualties, examined the hull fragments under electron microscopy. The fracture patterns weren't consistent with impact damage or structural failure under stress. Dr. Harrison testified later, these were deliberate cuts made with precision tools while the vessel was stationary. Quote, someone had systematically weakened Aurora's Dream's hull integrity. Coast Guard divers using ROV technology located the yacht's main wreckage at coordinates 3,142 Hein, 146.15 W, resting in 2,847 feet of water. The hull showed evidence of controlled breaching holes cut with surgical precision along stress points that would ensure rapid sinking. Most disturbing was what they didn't find aboard Aurora's Dream. Marcus Thornfield's body was nowhere in the wreckage. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Eleanor Thornfield, desperate for answers, hired private maritime investigator Rebecca Santos to analyze her husband's communication logs. Santos discovered that Marcus had been using an encrypted satellite messaging system completely separate from his official maritime communications. These hidden messages told a story that shattered the image of a peaceful retirement adventure. Marcus had discovered something during his route planning that terrified him, Santos revealed. 3 weeks before departure, he'd been approached by David Kessler, a maritime insurance broker with connections to international shipping cartels. Kessler offered to sponsor Thornfield's record attempt, covering all expenses in exchange for minor route modifications. The route modifications weren't minor. Kessler wanted Thornfield to sail through specific coordinates in international waters, photographing and documenting vessel traffic with high-resolution cameras disguised as navigation equipment. These coordinates matched known drug trafficking routes between South America and Asian markets. But Marcus Thornfield wasn't the naive retiree everyone believed. His encrypted messages revealed he'd been secretly documenting Kessler's operation, collecting evidence of a sophisticated maritime smuggling network that used legitimate sailing expeditions as surveillance covers. Wait, ... What? The final encrypted message, sent just hours before his disappearance, contained GPS coordinates of 3 vessels engaged in what appeared to be an at-sea transfer operation, along with photographs and detailed logs that could have exposed a multi-million-dollar trafficking organization. Marcus Thornfield hadn't been attempting a world record. He'd been gathering evidence to destroy a criminal empire. The truth emerged through sonar imaging conducted by the research vessel RV Atlantis, equipped with autonomous underwater vehicles capable of detailed seafloor mapping. Dr. Chen's team discovered that Aurora's Dream hadn't sunk where the debris field suggested. The yacht had been deliberately scuttled 15 nautical miles from the debris location, with evidence showing the hull had been breached by explosive charges, not the precision cuts initially suspected. Advanced multi-beam sonar revealed the second debris field containing personal effects, navigation equipment, and most critically, waterproof storage containers designed to preserve electronic evidence. Inside those containers, investigators found Thornfield's complete documentation of the trafficking network, including photographs, vessel identification numbers, crew communications intercepted via radio, and detailed logs of coordination between ships that operated under legitimate shipping company flags. David Kessler was arrested 6 months later in Panama, but the investigation revealed something that still haunts maritime security experts. The trafficking network had been operating for over 15 years, using retired maritime professionals as unwitting surveillance assets during legitimate ocean crossings. Marcus Thornfield's body was never recovered, but forensic analysis of blood evidence found aboard Aurora's Dream confirmed the worst fears. He'd been murdered before the yacht was scuttled, likely by crew members from one of the vessels he'd been documenting. The case closed officially in March 2021, but maritime investigators identified 17 other accidental disappearances of solo sailors in the same region over the past decade, all carrying sophisticated camera equipment, all sponsored by maritime organizations with connections to Kessler's network. The Marcus Thornfield case transformed international maritime safety protocols in ways most recreational sailors never realize. The International Maritime Organization now requires encrypted backup systems for all solo sailing expeditions exceeding 500 nautical miles, specifically because criminals have been exploiting the isolation and communication limitations of long-distance sailing. But that's what keeps maritime security experts awake at night. How many other solo sailors accepted sponsorship deals that weren't what they seemed? The investigation into Kessler's network revealed sponsor agreements with 43 different maritime adventurers over 15 years. 17 are confirmed dead. 8 are missing. 18 completed their journeys successfully, but investigators discovered their routes had been deliberately altered to provide surveillance of specific maritime corridors. Dr. Chen, now Director of Maritime Criminal Investigations for the Department of Homeland Security, estimates that organized crime networks have been exploiting amateur sailing expeditions for intelligence gathering since at least 2005. The ocean is the perfect place to hide criminal activity, she explains. Vast distances, limited law enforcement presence, and the romantic image of solo sailing provides perfect cover for surveillance operations. The most chilling discovery came during the investigation's final phase. Eleanor Thornfield received a package with no return address 18 months after her husband's disappearance. Inside was Marcus S. Rolex Submariner, the One he'd worn for 27 years of maritime servicing, along with a handwritten note. He should have minded his own business. Forensic analysis revealed the note had been written aboard a cargo vessel registered in Liberia, but investigators could never identify which specific ship or crew member had access to Marcus's personal effects. The watch itself told a story through its damage patterns, with blunt force trauma, suggesting Marcus had fought back against his attackers. The Thornfield case exposed a dark reality about modern maritime crime. Criminal organizations aren't just using the ocean for smuggling anymore. They reactively recruiting legitimate mariners as intelligence assets, often without the sailors' knowledge. Insurance fraud, cargo theft, human trafficking, and drug smuggling operations all benefit from detailed surveillance of shipping lanes, port security, and law enforcement patrol patterns. Maritime security consultant Dr. Harrison now trains solo sailors to recognize suspicious sponsorship offers. If someone offers to fund your sailing dream and they not a family member or established sailing organization, ask yourself why. He advises. The ocean is big enough to hide a lot of crimes, and criminals know that solo sailors are the perfect unwitting intelligence gatherers. The trafficking network Thornfield exposed stretched from Colombian cocaine producers to Japanese yakuza distributors, using legitimate shipping containers and compromised maritime professionals to move product worth an estimated $2.3 billion annually. His evidence led to 127 arrests across 6 countries, but investigators believe they've disrupted less than 30% of the operation. Recent satellite analysis has identified suspicious vessel movement patterns in the same region where Thornfield disappeared. Ships with legitimate cargo manifest meeting at predetermined coordinates, transferring goods between vessels, then continuing to their official destinations. A practice known as maritime laundering allows criminal organizations to inject illegal cargo into legitimate supply chains without detection by port authorities. What troubles maritime investigators most is the sophistication of these operations. Criminal networks are using advanced maritime tracking technology, corrupted port officials, and legitimate shipping company resources to create what experts call shadow shipping lanes, parallel distribution networks that operate invisibly alongside legal maritime commerce. The Aurora S. Dream herself was eventually raised from the ocean floor in a joint operation between the Coast Guard and the Navy. Its deep submergence unit. Forensic analysis of the vessel revealed additional evidence that Marcus Thornfield had been tortured before his murder. Signs that his attackers had been trying to extract information about what evidence he'd gathered and where it was stored. Hidden compartments built into Aurora S. Dream contained backup hard drives with encrypted files documenting not just the trafficking network, but a broader maritime criminal enterprise involving cargo theft, insurance fraud, and systematic corruption of international shipping regulations. The scope of Marcus's investigation had extended far beyond what even he had initially realized. Eleanor Thornfield established the Marcus Thornfield Maritime Safety Foundation, which provides security training for solo sailors and funds research into maritime crime prevention. She's also lobbied successfully for legislation requiring background checks on maritime expedition sponsors and mandatory GPS tracking with tamper-evident systems for all sponsored solo sailing attempts. But the Foundation's most important work might be its database of suspicious maritime sponsorship offers. In the 5 years since its establishment, the Foundation has identified 47 potentially fraudulent sponsor agreements targeting amateur sailors, preventing what investigators believe could have been additional surveillance, recruitment, or worse. The database reveals disturbing patterns. Criminal organizations specifically target recently retired maritime professionals, experienced sailors planning ambitious solo expeditions, and individuals with financial difficulties who might be tempted by generous sponsorship offers. The sponsors always emphasize the publicity value of the sailing attempt and request extensive photography of the route, particularly in international waters. Dr. Chan's current research focuses on what she calls maritime social engineering, the systematic recruitment of legitimate mariners for criminal purposes. These organizations study their targets carefully, she explains. They know exactly which emotional and financial pressures to apply, okay? And they're patient enough to build relationships over months or years before revealing their true intentions. The Marcus Thornfield case remains a teaching example at the Maritime Administration's security training programs. But it also serves as a warning about the changing nature of ocean-based crime. As maritime technology becomes more sophisticated, criminal organizations are adapting their methods to exploit both the technology and the people who use it. Recent intelligence suggests that Kessler's network was just one of several similar operations. The Department of Homeland Security has identified at least 5 other criminal organizations using comparable methods to recruit maritime surveillance assets. And investigators suspect there are many more they haven't yet discovered. The ocean that Marcus Thornfield loved enough to risk his life exploring remains as dangerous as ever, not because of storms or equipment failures, but because of human predators who understand that the maritime world's culture of independence and self-reliance makes it uniquely vulnerable to exploitation. Eleanor Thornfield still receives updates on the ongoing investigation. She's learned that her husband's evidence continues to generate arrests and prosecutions 5 years after his death, but she's also learned that the criminal network he exposed has adapted and evolved, finding new ways to operate in the vast, unpatrolled expanses of international waters. The watch Marcus wore when he died was returned to Eleanor after forensic analysis was complete. She keeps it in a display case alongside his Master Mariner certificate and the last photograph he sent from Aurora steamer, sunset over the Pacific Ocean, taken just hours before he discovered something that cost him his life. That photograph shows Marcus smiling, completely unaware that he was already being hunted by people who would kill to protect their criminal empire. It's a reminder that even in the 21st century, the ocean remains a place where people can disappear without a trace, and where the line between adventure and tragedy can be as thin as the horizon between sea and sky. For maritime investigators, the Marcus Thornfield case represents both a success and a warning. Success because his courage and sacrifice exposed a major criminal network. A warning because it revealed how easily criminal organizations can exploit the maritime community as trust and the ocean as vast isolation to hide their activities. The question that haunts everyone involved in the investigation is whether similar criminal networks are still operating. Intelligence confirms they are. The question is, how many other Marcus Thornfields are out there right now, unknowingly sailing into danger because someone offered to make their maritime dreams come true? If you're fascinated by the dark intersection of maritime adventure and organized crime, you need to hear about the case of the merchant vessel that disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle with $50 million worth of gold bullion and the satellite footage that revealed what really happened to its crew. That investigation uncovered evidence of piracy operations using modern technology that makes historical Caribbean buccaneers look like amateur criminals. Subscribe and enable notifications, because maritime mysteries like these reveal truths about ocean-based crime that most people never imagine. The sea keeps its secrets, but sometimes technology and human courage can force it to give up the truth.